Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with my FNM primer for this week. I'm going to actually go back to playing Ayli, the Eternal Pilgrim, in the Martyr proc. I had a lot of fun playing it the last time. You can actually go over to thegatheringmagic.com or over to their YouTube channel and see me play this for one of the Rogues Alleys episodes. This was pre-Eldrazi that I played it, but I think it's going to work very well in the post-Eldrazi metagame, as it does have access to Ghostly Prison and Wrath of Gods, which are all pretty good versus Eldrazi. Plus, Eldrazi is still a damage-based deck, so we can easily stabilize with cards like Martyr of Sands. So the whole gist of this deck, you can see the entire deck tech over at gatheringmagic.com. I'll probably explain it, and you'll get to see it in action too. You try to recur Martyr of Sands through cards like Proclamation of Rebirth. You can tutor them up with Ranger of Eos, and you can get them back with Orzhov Charm. So you're just continually recurring these Martyr of Sands to try to get up enough life total for the Serra Ascendant to be a 6/6 flying lifelinger, which also can be recurred, and then eventually you'll just win the game when you establish your ultimate recursion card, which is the Emeria, the Sky Ruin. So we have some other tricks in this deck. Weathered Wayfarer helps tutor up lands. We have 3 Ghost Quarters. This should be very good against the Eldrazi Menace. Mistveil Plains also help you put unlimited Squadron Hawks on the bottom of your library. Ayli is just such a flexible card in this deck, because if you have to sacrifice Serra's Ascendants to gain some more life to put above 10 life, or then sacrifice another creature to exile target online permanent, that is very, very key. Ayli's ability is extremely powerful. What I really like about her, she's a 2/3 Death Toucher for just 2 mana. That is, right there, is just plain value. It can trade with like a Thought-Knot Seer or a Reality Smasher. And then late game, this card is just an absolute powerhouse. That's why I'm running 3 of in the deck now. Wall of Omens here is really in here for Ayli and for the Sun Titan to recur it, or the Orzhov Charm can't recur it, neither can Proclamation of Rebirth, but Return of the Ranks can. I just think it's the best card in here, just with Ayli. The ability to draw a card, have a 0/4, and then sacrifice it for 4 life is very, very decent. It can block Matter Reshapers, which I think in this format's pretty relevant. And it can also block like a 2/2 Endless one and a 3/3 Endless one. And at least absorb some damage for like a Reality Smash. You can absorb all but 1 damage. So I had 4 of at one point in this deck. I've cut down to a 2 of. Another slot that I've had for this was going to be Knight of the White Orchard, because it can tutor up a Plains. And it's very easy to sacrifice a fetch land or a Ghost Quarter in response to the trigger. Well, I guess the fetch land doesn't work the way I think of it. It's Tithe that works that way. But with Knight of the White Orchard, what you do is you Ghost Quarter off their lands, and then you're behind, because they'll tutor up a basic land, and then Knight of White Orchard will find you Plains. So you're net the same. It basically turns Ghost Quarter into kind of a wasteland-like effect, and I've had that before. It's definitely an option. It's just not gonna go in this particular deck because it's quite weak. The Knight really is quite weak in the metagame at the moment. So we have 4 Path to Exiles on the sideboard, because we're going to rely on Wrath of God to be the sweeper. I think it's really powerful in the metagame right now. Instead of spot removal like Path to Exile, I think Wrath is just better. So stabilize with our early game and then just Wrath everything away. So sometimes we just need to hold up these Aylis. And if Ayli dies, we'll get it back eventually through Return to Ranks or Sun Titan. We will have a way to recur it back, so you don't need to be too attached to keeping Ayli on board. She a lot of times will just come out and block and trade with a creature. The 2/3 is just incredibly powerful. This really feels like a Vampire Nighthawk to me. So on the board we have Stony Silence is really for the affinity matchup. If you worry about affinity, you can put in Kataki. You can put in more Stony Silences. Then we have Nihil Spellbomb for any sort of living end type strategy or any graveyard-based strategy. I like Nihil Spellbomb because it doesn't affect your graveyard. We are a graveyard deck as well, and so we do not want to exile our graveyard. I have Ghostly Prisons. These might need to be mainboarded. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of weird. Maybe an Ayli for Ghostly Prison, but I like the 3 of. I think it gives us a better main board against the overall metagame, rather than Ghostly Prison being dead against a ton of decks right now. There's a lot of other white control decks going around. So Spellskites are still in here for the Infect and Affinity, or not quite Affinity, but Infect in Bogle's matchup. Spellskites are really good against. Also, it protects your Serra's Ascendants and Aylis from like a path. You don't want anything to be exiled, so the Spellskite can eat up an exile spell. Then we have my super secret deck tech, which is why I'm putting a Sacred Foundry in the sideboard. This card is awesome. This card is Hide Seek. Put target artifact enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. Instant speed. That is such an incredible effect. Or, this isn't an Entwine type ability, but you can do Seek, which Seek is actually really, really cool in the metagame right now. You can take Reality Smashers and gain 5 life, or Thought-Knot Seers gain 4 life, or later on, like, that's Oblivion, if they're running like Oblivion Sower, or Ulamog, or against like Karn. It's not the best. I mean, you're gonna probably lose miserably against Tron, but I mean, Seek allows us to gain quite a bit of life against specific decks. If you're going up against Tooth and Nail, you just completely exile their Emrakul, and then they can't combo, and that's 15 life on turn 2 that you get through Seek. If nothing else, even against like a Living End deck, you can just take one of their Living End enablers, or even one of their just bigger cards. It's like Living End has some 7 mana creatures in their deck, so you can Seek for 7, and that stabilizes you pretty well. I just think it's a very interesting card to put in here. There's still a lot of one-trick pony combo decks that you can get like ad nauseum. I think sometimes they only run one WinCon through the Lightning Storm. Maybe they run multiples, but that's definitely a way you can actually just get rid of it. And I'm trying to think of some other combo-based decks. There's a lot of decks running like a one of Gideon or a one of Elspeth just as their top-end finisher, and that's a lot of life you can gain, and a lot of decks you can just hose out. So, and then Hide is just I had Disenchant here. Hide works just perfectly instead of Disenchant. In fact, putting it on the bottom of their library is pretty significant. So there's definitely some artifacts and enchantments, even chalices, that we need to put back on top of or on the bottom of their libraries is great. So I think this is going to be a pretty cool card to splash into the deck. Anywho, as always, I'll let you know how the Modern goes. Just a little bit of a wrap-up for last week. Last week we had a pretty low turnout. I believe we only did 3 rounds I was running the Grixis Prowess deck, and I went 2-1 and beat Jeskai Black, and what was the other? Oh, Mono Red Aggro. Mono Red Aggro and Jeskai Black, and then lost to a Villainous Wealth green ramp deck, actually my deck that person was borrowing. And it's funny because I think that was the hardest match, or the easiest matchup out of all of them, with mainboarded threats, and then sideboarded, mainboarded really, really aggressive threats, and then sideboarded Duresses and Stubborn Denials. I really thought that it'd be an easy matchup, but I just could not get either any aggro. Like I think I found like one Storm Chaser Mage both games, and just went through tons of my deck. And B, I couldn't find a Duress or Stubborn Denial for the Villainous Wealth. And C, when he did get off of Villainous Wealth, it hit my one removal spell in the entire game that could kill Tassiger, which was Murderous Cut. And so it was just really unlucky with the early Villainous Wealth to find the Murderous Cut. But anyway, that was fun. I like the Grixis Prowess deck. You can check back in my last FNM primer to see that deck. I think it's pretty sweet right now. Unfortunately, I'm done with Standard, at least on MTGO. I tried to tape a series for GatheringMagic.com and literally went 0-5 versus Mardu Green, Mardu Green, Mardu Green, Mardu Green, and Mardu Green. Kid you not, 5 Mardu Greens decks in a row, where almost every matchup went a Warden into a Sylvan Advocate, into a Crackling Doom, into a Siege Rhino, into a Goblin Dark Dwellers. I'm not joking. It was like almost 10 games in a row that scenario played out, and it's just getting sick of how blah Standard is right now. Standard, there basically is 2 decks running around right now. You have Mardu Green and you have Rally the Ancestors. I don't know who in their right mind is running Rally the Ancestors right now, because it is really, really terrible against Mardu Green with Anafenza and Kaleidos and Howled Moonlight in the format. So anyway, gonna give Standard a huge break. If you enjoy Standard, I'm not gonna knock on you. I mean, to each his own, but it's just not a format I enjoy playing the exact same deck over and over. And I hate playing value decks. Absolutely hate value cards. Just where, what I mean by that is where the decks have no rhyme or reason. You're literally just throwing in the best card for their slot. So like Sylvan Advocate's the best 2-drop. Then you have your Crackling Doom, or Kolaghan's Command's your best 3-drop. Then you have your Siege Rhino, that's your best 4-drop. Then your Goblin Dark Dweller is your best 5-drop. It's just playing the best drops of the format. Absolutely hate Standard. Can't wait till the fetch lands rotate out and we can get back to actually creating decks and brewing decks and building decks and playing decks rather than just trying to outvalue your opponent, just really banking on who can draw the best and who can top deck the best. I know that some people disagree with that because there is decision making to be played in Standard, but I was actually playing kind of a similar deck. I was playing a See the Unwritten deck, so I mean I had access to Siege Rhinos and things like that. It just really came down to, you know, who landed more Siege Rhinos, and it's not a format I enjoy. Anyway, so back to Modern for this week's FNM. We like switch up at our local game store. We go Standard, Modern, Standard, Modern, Standard, Modern. We might throw some Pauper in there. Last week we actually did a draft for one of our FNMs, which was cool because we're in such a small area that it's hard to get people to want to play draft. So I'll let you know how this or today goes with the Ayli proc deck, the Martyr proc deck, and hopefully we get some good matchups. Hopefully we get some Eldrazi matchups, and I can give you kind of a tournament report for that. Anywho, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.